While many Australians grappled with the cost of living in 2024, many experts expect the new year to bring interest rate cuts and a further easing of inflation. Let's get more on this and what we can expect for the economy in the year ahead. Dr. Susan Stone is the Chair of Economics at the University of South Australia, and she joins us now from Adelaide. Dr. Stone, a very happy new year to you. Firstly, let's go to inflation. What can we expect this year?
Well, we are expecting an easing. Most people think it'll come back to the target rate sometime in the first half of the year, if not certainly by the end of the year. So there is this expectation of interest rates easing coming on board in 2025.
So tell us a bit more about the interest rate cuts that could be ahead. What are your predictions for this year?
Well, I would think that February meeting, they meet in February and then again in April and then again in May. And I think February might be a bit too soon. I think they'll want to see what the end of the year numbers look like. We'll see quarterly GDP for the end of the year come out in January, so they'll have those numbers. So unless something really big happens, I think February might be a bit too soon. So I would look more like April or May to be most likely seeing the first rate cut.
And what's your take on the talk that the RBA has been sitting on its hands for too long, because comparisons have been made to overseas where rates have been cut? How relevant is that to our economy?
Well, a lot of the inflationary pressures that we've seen lately have been domestic based. They've been from services and other domestic issues. So the RBA really has to keep an eye on what's happening at home. They can certainly look to see as a potential path of other countries, but it's more important to focus on what's happening here, because the last thing they want to do is to start cutting too soon. Because if we get into a whole nother inflationary spiral, we're right back to square one. So they want to be careful and be sure that when they do start to cut rates, that we well and truly have inflation under control.
Now, of course, all of this is intertwined, but where are house prices expected to go this year, and also rent prices?
Right. Well, we have seen already end of the year a bit of an easing in housing prices. We see houses being on the market a bit longer, more houses being passed over. So we do expect there to be an easing in the housing market. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to see prices coming down necessarily, but we should see a slowdown in that growth of prices. And that should come along with rental prices as well. And when we see, there's like a chain reaction here for rental prices. When we see construction's coming online, it's struggling, but houses are starting to be completed. We see more of this backlog being eaten into, which means people will get out of rental properties, get into the homes that they were renovating or building. That will also help ease up the rental market, we hope.
It was a good year for share markets in 2024. What was behind that for us, and any predictions for this year?
Yeah, well, I mean, overall, the economy in Australia, the cost of living has been difficult, but the economy is really not doing all that badly in terms of growth potential, overseas markets potential, and company performance. We've seen lots of profitability and good opportunities for investors. So that, of course, pushes the share market and helps keep things going. In 2025, growth projections for Australia are supposed to improve. We were about, a little bit over 1% this year. Next year, it's supposed to go up to as much as 2%. So we do expect significant improvements in growth. And as inflation eases, cost of living should help even out, and that will be even better news for companies' performance.
What would you say are the bigger challenges ahead for the Australian economy this year, but also any bright spots?
Right. Okay. Well, I do think housing will continue to be a challenge. There's a housing shortage that's not going to go away in a year. So we'll continue to see that to be a challenge. I think that agricultural exports, agricultural production is expected to be slightly down this year. Of course, last year was a record year, but this year we expect there to be a bit of a decline in output, which will hurt Australian exports. The minerals markets are a bit mixed right now, so we'll have to see what happens with those going forward. But overall, as I said, overall growth is supposed to be good. We should have inflation under control. The cost of living should actually start to even out, and we hopefully will decline. And so we expect there to be maybe some performance records and maybe some increase in wages, which should help the economy continue to grow and get out of this current lackluster performance.
And so, Dr. Stone, overall, how are Australians feeling about their financial health this year, and will that likely bear out?
I think the consumer sentiment has been fairly weak toward the end of the year, but I think people are starting to have looking forward to that rate cut that we're talking forward to getting out of 2024, which was always expected to be a tough year. It was always going to be a transition year. And so hopefully getting into a more positive, more growth projections going forward, getting mortgages once they get their rate cut, getting mortgage payments and feeling better about their financial position once that interest rate on debt comes down and people have a bit more disposable income to be able to further pay down debt if they choose to.